Hello, future Boilermakers, and welcome to the live Q&A broadcast for the School of Engineering Technology at Purdue University. To all of the students watching who have been admitted to one of our majors, congratulations. We're glad you're here, and we're ready to spend time with you and your family tonight. My name is Dannalee Mata, and I'm a senior majoring in audio engineering technology, and I'm from the suburbs of Chicago. Professors and current students tonight will join me as panelists in just a minute. You can feel free to submit questions via the YouTube chat window by signing into your Google account and typing them in. Diane Rosel, as well as our technical director, John O'Malley, will be monitoring the chat, and they'll try and pass along your questions to me. If we don't get to your questions tonight, please feel free to send a follow-up email to techrecruit@purdue.edu, and we'll respond later on. Before we get into our discussion, I would like to ask each of our panelists to introduce themselves and just tell us a little bit about what you teach. Good evening, Professor Garcia Bravo. Let's go ahead and start with you.
Hello, everybody. Nice to be here. This is the first time I'm on a podcast like this, and very, very happy to be here. I teach the fluid power courses here at Purdue. I've been doing this for about 10 years now, and I'm really looking forward to meeting you and getting your questions.
Thank you very much. Hello, Professor Lucietto. You're up next. You can feel free and unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. Thank you. Okay. I'm Ann Lucietto, and I am an associate professor in engineering technology. And I had to make a list of what I was going to say because I didn't want to forget. I have been at Purdue teaching for almost 10 years now. I spent almost 30 in industry, so I've got lots of experience to draw off of. And the courses that I teach are currently fluid mechanics, and I'm also teaching power plant energy generation course. I am looking forward to meeting some of you. I usually don't see anybody until the end of their time with us, but I do see people early on. So we're happy to have you join us and look forward to seeing you in the fall.
Thank you very much. And now, Professor Burbank.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ken Burbank. I'm the head for the School of Engineering Technology.
Awesome. So we have one more faculty member here tonight. Tim, would you like to go ahead?
Good evening, everyone. I'm really excited to be here. My name is Tim Updike. I'm the Director of Operations for the School of Engineering Technology. Look forward to working with you and answering your questions and meeting you at some point in the near future.
Alrighty, so that wrapped up our professional staff members. Now we have our student panelists. So I'm going to have each of you tell us your year, where you're from, and maybe your major as well. So Molly, let's go ahead and start with you too.
Hi everyone, my name is Mollie Diao. I'm a sophomore in electrical engineering technology, and I'm from Brownsburg, Indiana.
And last but not least, Alex.
Hi everyone, my name is Alexander Rodriguez. I'm a sophomore in mechanical engineering technology. I'm originally from Detroit, but I've lived and been a resident of Indianapolis for like the past 8 years. And I look forward to seeing you guys on campus.
Thank you, Alex. So now we're going to go ahead and get started with our questions. And our first question is one that we hear a lot. It's probably the one that we hear the most frequently. So let's go ahead and have Professor Burbank answer this for us. What are the differences between engineering technology and engineering?
Well, it's very true that this is a question that we get a lot. And in some ways, it's a fun one to answer because it clears up some important points. One of them is engineering is a profession. And as a profession, there's multiple educational pathways to get to that profession. So engineering technology is one of those pathways. Of course, a traditional college of engineering is a pathway, but majors like physics and chemistry and sometimes math are also pathways to an engineering career. So what makes us unique here in the School of Engineering Technology is not just that our graduates often become engineers, but the way they learn to get to that career. Our learning is experiential, much more applied, very lab-based, and very often project-oriented. You've probably heard the phrase learn by doing. Almost every one of our courses has an associated lab with it where you get to use equipment that you'll find in industry. That way you get to learn the practical side of the theories that you learn in lectures. It's very much an applied engineering program. Many of us, both professors and students, think this is what makes engineering technology as a fun program to be in. Personally, I much prefer teaching ET classes than traditional lecture-based classes. So hope that helps clear it up for everybody.
Thank you very much, Professor. Yeah, hopefully that helps clear up some of the questions. So now we're going to move on to our second question. Professor Lucietto, since the disciplines are pretty similar, what kind of jobs do engineering technology students get after they graduate?
Well, I've done a couple of studies and I've actually talked to a lot of our graduates after they leave. And I'm going to say the sky's the limit. You can be anything that your degree opens the door to. We've had as far off as glassblower as a title that someone got. It goes back a few years, but I found that one very intriguing. And then we have all kinds of people. We end up in manufacturing engineering positions, facility engineering positions. Um, I don't see too many design engineering, but I don't think our students are always wanting to do that. And the ones that do, they do it. They get right into it and they go. So really, truly, the sky is the limit. Anything that you want to do, that engineering technology degree will get you in the door. And I've seen it over and over and over. And it's just really fun for us on our end to see everybody leave and basically fly.
Thank you, Professor. Now for our third question, we're going to have Professor Diao answer. Would you please tell us a little more about the opportunities that students have in engineering technology to do projects that not only involve design, but also that hands-on experience that we've been hearing a lot about? So, for example, your field is robotics. Would you tell us a little bit about that?
So for students projects, we have a lot of course projects and also projects outside the class. And students can have put their hands on the robots, including the industrial robots and the mobile robots, various drones, all kinds of devices, or we call it robotic systems. So students can learn a lot from those learn by doing teaching methodology.
Awesome. Now we're going to go ahead and hear from some of our students as well. So Alex, would you go ahead and tell us how your interest in high school got you thinking about technology and then engineering, and why particularly you chose to come to Purdue to study MET?
Okay, so during my time in high school, I had the chance to get some exposure to engineering, especially with the Project Lead the Way classes. I found this was an area that I particularly enjoyed as opposed to some of my peers. And this was really solidified when I got my first car and I had to troubleshoot some of the issues, as well as my initiative to be a do-it-all type of person. I wanted to solve my own problems. And in staring back and looking at that, I realized I was really interested in the design and thought processes that went into all these complex items that make a car and make it function that sometimes most people overlook. And so I decided to go the engineering technology route, especially since they have an emphasis on hands-on application. And so far in my 2 years here, I've done nothing but enjoy it.
Thanks, Alex. That's awesome. My younger sister actually just got accepted into mechanical engineering technology as well, and for pretty much the exact same reasons. She also loves working on cars. So it's funny to see how some of those stories are very similar about people who enjoy to tinker and work with their hands. So Molly, we've got the same question for you. What first got you interested in electrical engineering technology, and why did you pick Purdue?
Yeah, so like Alex, I also went through Project Lead the Way. My favorite class is definitely digital electronics. We did a ton of wiring projects. It was very hands-on type of class, and that's what I loved about it. And I also was a pretty avid 4-H'er, so I love the electric project and that too. And just kind of bonding over our love for electrical systems, I got a lot closer with my dad. We loved to solder together, and I really just wanted to continue that passion and continue just making little cute electronics for fun. And I thought if I had so much fun with these electronics, I might as well do it as a career. And I was blessed enough to have both of my parents and brother graduate from Purdue Polytechnic. So I knew all about engineering technology, and I was really excited to get into a hands-on major like that. And I have loved it.
That is a super, super special story. Awesome. A whole Purdue Polytechnic family. So I'm going to go ahead and share a little bit about myself too. So I had a slightly different reasoning for coming to Purdue. So I know Alex and Mollie talked a little bit about Project that Lead the Way and how that got them interested. My major is audio engineering technology. So for me, I was really interested in music and audio. And after I started to do that, my band director noticed that I also really love robotics. So he said, you should find a way to mix music and engineering. And I kind of thought that was impossible until I found out about audio engineering technology. And it was just the perfect way to learn all about circuitry and programming and then still have that interest in that niche in audio. So yeah, kind of similar to you guys. It started off in high school and I've loved it ever since as well. All right, so we all got a chance to talk about why Purdue is right for us, but before we go on and move ahead to plans of study or similar topics, let's take some time to talk about our brand new state-of-the-art home, which is Dudley Labs. So Dudley and Lambertus Halls opened in January of 2023. Tim, would you go ahead and tell us about some of the new labs that most engineering technologies will get to use here?
Absolutely, yeah. This is exciting. This is a brand new 56,000 square foot building that we just moved into last year. And this building houses several very special world-class laboratories where we're bridging that gap between engineering theory and real-world application. A couple examples of that are the Industrial Internet of Things lab, where you're learning about writing PLC programs, relays, that sort of thing. But we're also administering cybersecurity. So it's not just how do I control things that I can see in front of me, how do I end up dealing with that remotely and actually working through a variety of different firewalls and direct and remote control. Another one would be a smart foundry. And you might ask, Tim, how do you create a smart foundry? Well, realistically, how much moisture does a sand casting need to be compactable and hold a good mold? You need to better understand that. And then how do you go about making a robot that actually pours molten metal? There's a lot of that going on right now where we're actually administering those sorts of technologies to try and automate many things within the foundry industry. Another one of our premier learning environments is the Smart Learning Factory. That's a very exciting place to be. We've got a lot of 3D printing and machining. We're actually manufacturing skateboards, longboards, and the student gets to end up taking that from an inventory standpoint all the way through collaborative robots and assembly areas. So I think that's exciting. Beyond that, we've got mechatronics and robotics and electronics and the audio lab. We've also got a wood fabrication lab where the student actually begins and designs and manufactures their own guitar. So we've got a lot of exciting things going on in Dudley and Lambertus Hall both.
Thank you. And Tim, the reason why we have these labs is to provide opportunities for hands-on learning and real-world experience, right?
Absolutely. We teach engineering theory, and then we get to apply it and test it in all of these labs. That's a very exciting and a better way to learn for a person like me, where I want to end up reading about this and taking it to the lab and saying, all right, is that true or not? And how can I demonstrate that to myself? I think that makes a lot of sense. As your education develops in the professional environment, as you get into be a sophomore and a junior and a senior sort of person, you're going to wind up getting to troubleshoot complex problems and even make improvements to some of our own processes.
Thank you very much, Tim. We're going to go ahead and shift gears a little bit. I'm going to have the next question be answered by Professor Lucietto. So for this question, I'm sure a lot of women out there have the same question. I know I did when I was applying to Purdue. So there are often more men than women in different STEM fields, both in college, but also out in industry. So Professor, why do you think Purdue is the right place for women who want to be in engineering and technology?
Well, first of all, you've actually said that very well. There are more men than women in most STEM fields. And people tend to feel uncomfortable when they don't see other people that look like them. And that gets to be really difficult. And it's not just gender, but it's also race and other things that, that we take personally and we've grown up with and we're familiar with. And you know, I think Purdue is very accepting. I wasn't sure that I got my PhD at Purdue, and I wasn't sure that I wanted to go to Purdue. It was another state. It was something I really wasn't familiar with. And all the people that I knew that had gone there told me, you're going to fit in. You're going to love that place. And I kind of went in with a really weird attitude. And when I got to Purdue, I'm like, wow, they were right. This is the place. And why? And that's the question you asked, right? You want to know why. Well, basically, you feel comfortable because everyone's very accepting. I've found very few people that are not accepting, and they don't usually stay too long. So it's really nice just to be able to get with a group of people, talk to them, get along, figure out, what you're doing. A lot of the students are very, they really want to work and learn. And I think that's really important. And that's not always the case at some places. So that's super important. The other part of that, I kind of alluded to it by saying, they look like you, right? We have a lot of women faculty, and the women faculty in our department are really, really good people. They want to see you succeed. They want to make sure that you do well. And most of us will sit and listen to you cry about your boyfriend or whatever else is going on in your life and try to help you find the right resources to make sure that you're comfortable and you can get through your problems. And I think that's something that needs to be stressed, because I have not experienced that in other places. And yes, I've been to a few other places. And I just think that people need to know that that is the case at Purdue. Purdue feels like home.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and also have our student come in and speak about this from her perspective as well. So, Mollie, how welcoming and supportive has engineering technology at Purdue been for you?
So definitely when I was in high school, I was really worried about potential sexism. I know I was going into a very male-dominated field, and it is very male-dominated. But ever since I've been at Purdue, I've only had supportive staff. I've never really experienced any sexism from that standpoint, and they're always willing and treat every student exactly the same, from any background, any race, any gender. They're very accepting staff and faculty, and we're very lucky to have them. From a student standpoint, all of our students at least in the electrical classes, I don't take mechanical or anything, but I'm sure it's the same. All of the electrical classes, we're very close. We're very tightly knit, and we always help each other with anything. We spend a lot of time outside of class just helping each other, even if we don't need help, and even if we're done. I've had friends sacrifice their weekend to help me test a circuit. I've helped other friends build something that they couldn't figure out. And I think that engineering technology is really special in that way. I know a lot of different majors can be very competitive and very hard to fit in sometimes, but in engineering technology, I've only ever been best friends with everybody in my major, and we've gotten along so well, and we go way out of our way to help each other. I mean, there've been multiple instances where my friends have stayed over in lab with me just so I can finish the lab because they want to see me succeed as they are succeeding too, and vice versa. So I definitely love the kind of vibe of everybody in engineering technology for sure.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think part of the engineering technology program is everyone loves to work with their hands and they want to see other people succeed as well. So, and just kind of like what you were saying, I mean, it's very supportive. You have people working together in open labs, working on projects, collaborating, and especially for women in technology. I mean, you always hear those statistics, I think for the past like 10 years, how different universities have been trying to grow women in STEM programs and things like that. But honestly, you become so close with the women in your major. It's really special because Purdue has, maybe 45,000 people in it. But Purdue Polytechnic helps make that feel like a home, makes it feel a lot smaller. And I would give some advice to anyone who's entering and about to start their freshman year is to get involved with Women in Tech. I got involved my freshman year and it was wonderful. So there's a learning community where freshman women can live together. That's awesome. You live with people who you study with and you hang out with and you see in your classes. And then after that, you can go ahead and join the student organization for all 4 years as well. So that's my recommendation for you guys too out there watching. All right, so shifting gears one more time, we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about something else. We're going to talk about our plans of study. So, Professor Garcia Bravo, are there, there are about a dozen different majors in the School of Engineering Technology. So every student takes at least one course together during their first year, right? So how do students focus on learning during their first 1 or 2 years?
Very good. Thank you, Dannalee. Yeah, so as you mentioned, there is a whole lot of um, classes that kind of belong to all the programs together. We have, for example, the ENGT Gateway to Engineering Technology class, which is a very large class for everybody to receive the introductory principles for the engineering. And so I believe that the key here for this class and for many other classes like this, like the applied calculus and the physics and all that, is to find groups of study to work together. That's the first part. Try to make friends and work together on these courses. These courses, like I said, are foundational. They focus on the giving you the tools that you will need to be successful as you progress through the different courses, you know. So if you're a mechanical engineering technology student or an electrical engineering student, you're still going to need calculus, you're still going to need your physics. And so all of these courses originally foundational, even communications also, those are the classes that are going to give you or build your base so that you can get to learn your other classes. I would say, and my advice is pay attention to those classes. They might look a little easy at the beginning, especially if you came with a good background from your high school. Still doesn't matter. I recommend that you pay a lot of attention to those classes. Start building those networking relationships with other students, helping each other, building your study groups from these very original classes. We have lots of opportunities to do that. We have resources, student resources for that. And so that's my recommendation. Don't just think that because these are easy classes, I'm going to do the least effort. I recommend that you put in the most energy into those from the beginning and start making those networking relationships.
Thank you, Professor. Yeah, it's definitely important to have those strong study habits starting from day one. So before we go ahead and continue with our planned questions, I'd actually like to go ahead and answer a question from a viewer. And it's actually for you, Professor Lucietto. So the question is, how does the path to getting a master's in mechanical engineering come from an engineering technology degree?
Okay, can you repeat the beginning of that?
No problem. How does the path to getting a master's in mechanical engineering come from an engineering technology degree?
Okay, so I would say it's just like getting a master's in engineering technology. You have to make sure that you have the right courses, you have the right interest, you make the right, you talk to a few of the professors and start to make connections and decide what direction you want to go in, and then you would pursue it. And often we have a full program in engineering technology for both masters, and you can also get a doctor of technology in our college. So um, I don't see any difference in that. You can do that. They may have some requirements on the engineering side. I can't say for sure. But you know, where you have to take an extra math course or something like that. But that would be something that I would suggest that they look up. They can see that online and see what the requirements are. And the process is essentially the same.
Okay, thank you. And we have a follow-up from this viewer as well. So this viewer is asking, does it take the same amount of time?
From what I understand, both are roughly 30 or 32 hours of credit that you have to get. And it's usually some combination of coursework, and then you would do a thesis. Um, Sorry, I've been working with a lot of my doctoral students, so dissertation's on the tip of my tongue. But you do, you basically have to work with the professor that is your advisor, and then you continue doing some research, and they work with you to write up the document, and then you have to defend it. And there's a whole process that our students go through. I think over in engineering, it's a little different with each college, depending upon the college that you're in. So right now I can speak for engineering technology if they have a more specific question regarding our program. But essentially they're very close.
Thank you. And as a reminder for our viewers, if you have any questions, you can feel free and pop those in the chat, and I'll try to answer them as we go along. But for now, we're going to continue with our next question, which is for Professor Diao. So when do courses start to get more specialized based on your specific major?
So essentially for the third year and fourth year, so when you take the courses in the high division courses like 300 level, 400 level courses, then you're gonna have more. You focus more on your majors, on your profession, and you're gonna have more difficult courses there.
Thank you very much. So yeah, you mentioned a little bit about how the difficulty will increase as you go into further years of education. Just in case students have any questions, when you look at that plan of study, you might see your 100 level, 200 level, and then you'll start to get into 300 and 400 level with more in-depth theory and application as well. All right. So question 14. Alex, there are computers available for students to use on campus. Do you use those computers or do you have your own? Do you prefer to use both? How'd you decide what kind of computer to bring to college?
Okay, so I know that there are around a couple hundred computers spread around campus in most of the libraries that have access to most of the software that you may need. However, I do know that I use my personal computer the most. I've had a Lenovo IdeaPad 5 for like 4 years, and it's held up well. I've seen some students get away with using Mac OS, but I would personally advise to get something with at least 16 gigabytes of RAM, at least 512 gigabytes of storage. But I think you should be able to make it through, even if you choose to go the Mac route. As I mentioned earlier, there are computers strewn about campus, so it's accessible.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex. And Professor Burbank, do you have any other recommendations about how students can be prepared coming to campus, whether it be computers or otherwise?
So certainly computers are essential, both for doing your homework, doing your project work. Of course, the video meetings like this are sort of standard for all of us nowadays. The faculty primarily use a course management system, so a lot of the assignments and the videos and everything is online or available through this medium. So being computer savvy is very important. But you're not on your own there in that, the university has plenty of help and tutorials to help you get started. And I would say 99.9% of the students are far better than the faculty on computers. And so your peers are going to be your best resource. That's not an issue in general. And the other thing that I like to remind incoming students is that a 16-week semester seems long in week 1 and seems very short by week 14. Time management is a very critical skill to work on to be successful. Don't get behind.
Thank you, Professor. Yeah, I can definitely tell you that now that I'm a senior, I feel like I was at Purdue for a total of 1 month, and I don't know how that 1 month is actually 4 years. So take advantage of your time, and especially take advantage of making those study groups, great connections as well. So we're going to go ahead and move on to our next question. So Professor Garcia Bravo, you're actually one of the Capstone mentors. So I'd like you to talk a little bit about senior Capstone projects in engineering technology.
Sure. So every major in SOET is required to take a capstone class or a capstone series of it's 2 classes really. And it is a project-based type of class where most of the effort is placed on solving a problem. A lot of these capstone projects are actually industry sponsored, so we get problems from real life situations from industry, and they hire us, literally a group of students and professors, to solve these problems. Like I mentioned earlier, my area of expertise is in fluid power. I get companies to come and ask me, how do we make a valve faster? How do we, a year, for 2 semesters, we spend the time finding a solution, a practical solution, and prototyping a solution that we test and we give to the company as a result. So what this allows is our students to test their skills as they are exiting our program, see what they have learned in a real life situation, and then produce something of value to an industry as well as to them because they are learning. And for me as a faculty, it's a very enjoyable, and I just simply have a lot of fun doing these projects. That's really much what I can say about that.
Thank you, Professor. You talked a little bit about real-world experience in industry. Would you also want to talk about internships and if they're required for our programs?
Is that for me also?
Yes, Professor, thank
Oh
you.
yeah. So I don't think it's not a requirement. Getting the internship experience is not a requirement. But boy, would you be missing out if you didn't have that internship. Tell you what, we every year we have an industrial roundtable. It's an amazing job fair. Thousands of people come in here to recruit students from Purdue. Purdue is the it place to be, and you would be missing out if you wouldn't be taking one of these internships. I recommend my students take as many internships as you can. And so I think that's part of being successful also as you go out of here and you're thinking about your life after Purdue. These internships will shape up that experience and your own future. So um, again, to wrap up, required no, highly advisable, absolutely yes.
Thank you very much, Professor. We're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about student internship experiences as well. So I know Mollie has an internship coming up next summer. If you'd like to talk about just where your internship is based and then how you use the Purdue resources to get that, whether it be the career fairs or otherwise, Mollie, feel free.
Right, so I'm going to be interning with AES in Indianapolis this summer. I actually met them at IR. So Roundtables is an incredible resource for all students. I know it's usually advertised as engineering roundtable, and people get confused a little bit if we can go or not. You can definitely go. A lot of companies, more and more companies, are becoming more and more familiar with engineering technology. And I actually know a couple companies told me that engineering technologist interns that they hired, that they weren't sure if they wanted engineering technology versus engineering, but the engineering technologists fast tracked their company way further and faster than they were expecting, by 5 years, I think they said. So companies are wanting engineering technologists more and more year after year. The more interns they get from engineering technology, the happier they are with the end results. And a lot of the internships are going to be hands-on. It just depends where you go, really. But our hands-on experience is very unique and very desired because we can troubleshoot things really easily that I know some other majors may have a little bit difficult time with that. So I definitely recommend going to Industrial Roundtable. Get yourself out there. You might be nervous, but even going as a freshman, just to practice interviewing with people and practice talking to companies is also really good idea.
Congrats, Mollie. That sounds awesome. Now we can go ahead and have Alex share his upcoming experience as well.
Okay, so I know personally I attended the co-op fair this past January, and I was able to receive a couple offers. I decided to accept one with GE with their manufacturing division. And what I really want to take away from that, building off of what Molly said, is like at first, initially in my freshman year, I didn't really want to go. I didn't feel like I had like the display of items that they were looking for to actually take me on. But as I spoke to some of the companies at this co-op fair, I realized the opportunities are vast and they're willing to accept you because at the end of the day, they're willing to teach you. And, it's a reciprocal or symbiotic relationship. You're both taking things from one another. So I would advise you guys to go out there regardless of any doubt that you may have. You never know where it could take you. I also want to mention that besides the internships, there are also research opportunities here. So if you are interested in doing research or to build like resume and experience with industry type problems, research is available as well.
Thanks, Alex. Congrats to you too. So we've heard a little bit from our students. I'd like to go ahead and pass it to Tim as well. So Tim, we have been speaking about senior capstone projects and internships. Is it possible for these opportunities to lead to a full-time job after graduation?
It's not only possible, it's probable. We have this happen a lot in that a lot of internships, a lot of co-op sessions end up being a longer term relationship between that student and that company. And once they understand what the capabilities of our students are, and they'll move them into a variety of different roles, providing you a vast amount of experience, they understand that you can exceed their expectations in a lot of different positions. And realistically, I would say well over half of the internships and co-ops that we send out there end up having some sort of an offer or a very interested party to say, hey, please come back as a full-time employee. So I think it's extraordinarily valuable, and it also drives the interest level. That's the other thing that we see is that once you end up spending a summer or a co-op session at a company doing applying your skills that you've learned earlier, when you come back, there's a lot more interest and a lot more understanding of what's going on within the labs, and there's a lot of drive that creates, and it ends up being a very marketable skill for everyone that participates.
Thanks, Tim. I actually had a very similar experience. So I had 2 internships, and the place where I interned last, that's actually where I'll be returning full time after I graduate in May. So just to echo what Tim was saying, it's not only possible, but it's definitely probable. And again, this starts as early as, Alex and Mollie are sophomores and they're already having those internship opportunities. So that's really awesome. Congratulations again, you guys.
If I may add something, Dannalee. So I think we're at a point right now where even high school students are getting internships at industry positions, just because number one, we have a lot of people in engineering positions that are retiring, and there is not enough people to fill those gaps. So that's one. And number two, we production is still growing, right? And so all these positions are needed desperately. I would say that any time that you have an opportunity to even do co-ops, that's being a student and also hired as a company. Caterpillar does that with a lot of our students, where they are both students and employees of Caterpillar. Do that. The possibilities are endless, and the companies around here, Indiana, the manufacturing and other technology companies also are just immense. And so I would say any opportunity you get to put your feet on a company, do it, and don't even wait until you start your program here at Purdue. If you got a chance here this summer, take it. Start inquiring, knock on doors. Sooner you start, the better it will be for you.
Thank you so much, Professor. We have another question from a viewer. This time it's for Professor Burbank. So Matthew's asking, will you tell us the difference between Purdue's West Lafayette campus and the Indianapolis campus?
Okay, great question. The really smart alecky answer is about 65 miles. And I say smart alecky in the sense that our goal is to make them experience-wise for the students to be the same. So obviously there's students already enrolled at what is currently the IUPUI campus. They'll get to finish their degree programs that they started. But once after July of this summer, when Purdue officially takes over, like the MET and the EET program in Indianapolis will be exactly the same as those programs here. Same plans of study, same lab experiences, same measurement points, same opportunities for the students to do these internships and co-ops. It'll be the same first year experience and the same capstone experience. Now, will it be the same faculty? And the answer is no, in that, there's existing faculty in Indianapolis that will become faculty members for Purdue. But otherwise, it'll be the same. We hope at some point, and I say at some point because even the transportation logistics of this will get a little bit confusing, that students can go between campuses. But, it still takes close to an hour and a half door to door to get between the two. So you're not going to do, engineering 1 in the morning and your physics lab in the afternoon in a different location. So there's going to be some issues there, but we're certainly hoping that students can go back and forth semester by semester, maybe day by day, and enjoy each other's company. I'll make another quick pitch here in that the School of Engineering Technology also has campuses or is on 6 other campuses in Indiana now, our so-called statewide system. So we're very accustomed to running these programs in multiple locations, keeping the experience as much as possible the same.
Thank you so much, Dr. Burbank.
You're very welcome.
We have a follow-up from Matthew as well, if you'd be willing to answer Professor Burbank. So there was an article in the Indianapolis Business Journal. It stated that Indy campus students would be guaranteed an internship. Is that the case, and how will the process work?
So I know the article that you're speaking about. That actually was a promise that was made by the College of Engineering for their students. So, which is wonderful, of course. I want to give a slight correction to something that Dr. Garcia Bravo mentioned earlier, and that is a professional work experience like an internship is already required for all of our students. So it could be an internship, it could be a co-op. There's various forms for that, but that's been a long-standing requirement for graduation for our students for many years. And we have people in place to help that happen. So is it guaranteed in the sense that if you can't find when we're going to pay you to do something? No. I'm not going to make that guarantee, but I can assure you that there is no shortage of positions for our students. I don't think we've ever had a student not be able to get a professional work experience in order to graduate.
Thank you, Professor. We have another viewer question. This one is for Professor Diao. It's a little bit specific, but perhaps you'll be able to help us out here. So this viewer is asking, is it possible to double major in robotics engineering technology and another major without adding too much time?
Yes, of course. You can double major robotics with the mechatronics, automation, smarter manufacturing, or mechanical engineering technology, electrical engineering technology. So depends on which specific major you want to double major on. The courses, the additional courses required probably a little bit more different. So it depends on the majors. If you double major on robotics and mechatronics, or smart manufacturing, or automation, then you can have less additional courses required.
Thank you, Professor Diao. And we have a little bit of a follow-up to this one as well. So do you know if it's possible to double major in robotics engineering technology and a major in a different college? So maybe a major that's not in the Polytechnic Institute, but maybe College of Science?
Yeah, that's also possible, of course. And actually, I have students in my class who double majored on robotics and management. So obviously you're gonna take a lot more courses from management.
Thank you very much, Professor. Actually, one of my very, very good friends, she's doing a double major in management and electrical engineering technology. And her best advice was just take classes over the summer. So she would do her internship and she would do a remote course and knock out 3 credit hours right there. So that's some advice as well for you all, is you can take remote classes over the summer as well. And that will help make sure you have room within the semester and not feel overwhelmed with your curriculum in the fall or the spring. All right. Professor Lucietto, in engineering technology, students are required to do a senior capstone project. Could you tell us a little bit about how students benefit from having an industry sponsor to solve a real-world problem?
Well, as was explained before, the capstone project sort of wraps everything up and gives you the opportunity to take a lot of the knowledge that you've gained over the years with us and actually solve a problem. The nice thing about the capstones generally that we have is our sponsors are very much involved with different industries that come from a company. It's a company project. You get to know the people, not just that one person that might come and visit. You get to know some of the other people. You go for tours sometimes at the factories or the facilities that are, being, that are sponsoring the project. And so the ability to interface with people in industry is huge. It gives you an idea of how to talk to them. It gives you an idea of what they're looking for. And sometimes those things are a mystery if you don't have an interface with somebody who's working in an environment like that. And it also gives you a chance to kind of see if that's something you're interested in as your long-term career. So that's I guess that's a good way to answer that.
Thank you, Professor. We're actually about ready to start wrapping up, so thank you so much to everyone who's been watching, everyone who's been popping those questions in the chat for us. And before we go, I'd like to ask each one of you this question. So I'm going to have everyone answer this question. What advice can you share with future students to be both happy and successful during their time at Purdue? Why don't we go ahead and start with Mollie?
My biggest advice is definitely going to be join a lot of student organizations, at least one. I don't know very many people who don't like Purdue, but the only ones that don't like Purdue are the ones in no club involvement whatsoever. Having a balance between your academics and things you enjoy for fun is really important. I'm personally involved in pet bands. I'm in a service fraternity. I am in cooperative living. I'm in a lot of different things to kind of put some space between academics and just having fun. You're in college, you're only going to be here for so long. We might as well enjoy it too. And not that my major's not enjoyable, but just finding friends outside of the major is also really fun. My biggest piece of advice academically is definitely take advantage of office hours. I know I go to office hours all the time. In office hours, you can actually build a really special relationship with your professor. You can get to know them a little bit more, but they also help you a lot. And once you're more comfortable with your professors, it's really easy to ask questions in class. And I find myself way more willing to participate in class when I know that my professor's not as scary as they seem. Just lecturing in front of 100 people. When you get to know them in office hours, it's really easy to ask questions in class too. And every professor I've ever had has been very helpful in office hours. They're never going to lie and say they're available and they're not. They're very helpful. They'll help you with your lab. They'll walk you through it. But a lot of professors won't give you the answers. In engineering technology, they're going to push you to find your own answers, but they're going to give you the tools that you need. And I think that's really important learning experience as well. So definitely student involvement, definitely office hours, and do BGR. I was a TL. It's really cool. I didn't go through BGR as a freshman, and I wish I would have, because when I was a team lead for it, I just saw everybody grow so much and become confident in themselves and confident on campus. And it's really important to just know that you can make friends anywhere. Everybody here is from a different background, and you can make friends. You can fit in anywhere. There are so many clubs.
Thank you so much, Mollie. You hit a lot of really important points right there. Tim, we're going to go ahead and have you answer the same question. So what would you recommend? What advice do you have for students so they can be both happy and successful during their time here at Purdue?
Yeah, thank you. I think that's a really solid question. For me, what we see a lot are a lot of high school seniors are coming in and they're saying, hey, I don't really know what I like. I don't know exactly what direction I want to go. So I would suggest that you expose yourself to as many of the technologies and the degrees and relate to a lot of the colleagues so that you can meet as many people as possible. I think there's plenty of opportunity here, but you need to end up determining what you don't like and what you like along the way. And that makes it a whole lot easier to say, you know what, this degree is the right one for me. I think that's a very powerful situation. And I think this is close to the best time ever to try and come to Purdue and actually get an engineering technology degree based on the curriculum we have and the fantastic systems. And I think this is the right time. It's a very exciting place to be. So I would say try and be as involved as you possibly can.
Thank you very much, Tim. Professor Burbank, your turn here. So would you like to share advice to our future students?
Thanks. So one of our mottos here in school is students first. And that's a motto that we use in faculty and staff, but it also, I think Mollie hit on this as well. You know, we're all here at this university because we want you to succeed. You know, this is our passion. Besides our discipline, our passion is passing our love of a discipline on to the next generation. We want you to succeed. So remember that. Don't be afraid to ask for help, because there are many people here that they're just waiting for you to ask so they can pour it on top of you. So go for it. Have fun.
Thank you so much, Professor Burbank. Professor Diao, I've got a short question to ask you just before you share your advice to students. So this is coming from a viewer. What are some examples of real careers that robotics engineering technology graduates have? So for example, could you give us some job titles or even companies where our graduates have gone? Professor Diao, I think you're muted if you want to go ahead and unmute.
Sorry. So as you may know, robotics is a very broad interdisciplinary area. So you can get various jobs after your graduation. And as you may know, for our robotics major, we actually have 5 concentrations. So after your graduation, depends on your concentration. For example, if you your concentration is artificial intelligence and software, then your future job could be some kind of software engineers, programmers, and then if you are working on IoT, Internet of Things, or mechanisms, controls, then depends on your concentration, depends on your interest. I would say you may get jobs from like robotics engineer, fields engineer, maintenance engineer, all kinds of R&D engineers. So depends on your interest and your concentration.
Thank you so much. And now just to finish up with you, Professor Diao, how can students set themselves up for success at Purdue?
I would say be motivated since you selected this major and you selected you registered this course, and then just be motivated for the topics, the course topics, the projects, and more importantly, commit your time after class to work on the course material, on your project. And if you have any questions regarding it's in class or out of class, then be willing to speak up if you have problems. Do not just sitting in the rear side of the classroom and keep quiet. So reach out to the instructors with any questions, and as early as possible. You don't want to apply, the instructors towards the end of the semester. That would be too late sometimes. So yes, take full advantage of the office hours, and I would say start your projects, your homework assignments, all kinds of assignments as early as possible. You don't want to wait for the last minute. And I mean, their deadline is the deadline. So yeah, start as early as possible. Do not wait. In case you have questions, then you have time to discuss with your instructors.
Thank you so much, Professor Diao. Okay, Professor Garcia Bravo, you're up next. So what should future students do to be happy and successful at Purdue?
I agree with all of what my colleagues and students have said. I think I have one thing to add, and that is make use of the labs that we have here, not just for classwork. We have a lot of toys and things to play with, and me personally, for example, my lab is a little bit of a playground for students, and I'm always willing to open the door for trying different experiments, trying different things. If you're curious about something you want to try, come and do it with me, and I'll be happy to have fun alongside with you, instruct you. And those are probably more meaningful learning experiences. That's actually one of the things that makes our degrees a little bit more meaningful, is that we're always doing hands-on things. But don't wait for these experiences to happen only in the context of a class, but also if you're curious, come and try something. Build things, like we have a guitar lab, building guitars. Who need? Or we're building bicycles in my lab, which is fluid power, so human powered vehicles, things like that. We got all those kinds of things. And so if you're motivated to do something and you're curious, try it out.
Thank you, Professor. I think you bring up a really great point about taking things outside the classroom. So just to kind of come off that topic as well, we have Bechtel Innovation Design Center as well available for all students. So this is a makerspace that the university has, and I'd highly recommend anyone in engineering technology to go through and just see what they have, because my first time being there, again, it was like a playground, just like Professor was saying. So they have everything from a hot work station where you can weld. So I took some welding classes. I'm not a mechanical engineer, but it was so much fun. They have CNC machines, 3D printing, laser cutters, water jets, anything you need, you could probably get it machined there. So it's really cool. You can go ahead and head to Bechtel's website as well. So you can go ahead and visit them. It's a very simple process. You have a safety quiz that you can do. And then after that, I mean, it's pretty much just open equipment with peer mentors. So don't be afraid if you don't know how to do something. I didn't know how to weld. And then I had peer mentors teach me step by step. I was actually just there last night teaching other students how to solder. So it's very, very full circle. It's 100% student run, and I'd highly recommend. I'm also going to go ahead and have Alex talk a little bit about Bechtel too.
So for me, I know that being a part of the electric vehicles club, a part of their cart design team, where we're making an electric cart from the ground up, we had to do some welding for our frame, as well as like redesigning of the original frame design. And we did, as Dannalee mentioned earlier, touch on welding a little bit to like reassemble that frame. So definitely, if you guys have personal projects that you would like to do, I mean, you're going to have to get certified first, at least with Bechtel, but that space is open for you guys and the possibilities are endless.
Thanks so much, Alex. We're going to go ahead and go back to our advice questions for students. So, Professor Lucietto, what's your advice for future students?
Quick, because I know we're closing in on the end of everything here. But I think that you need to remember as this is your time. Do things for you. All the things that I'll talk about are very, very important, but try things. Do something different. Do something you've never done before. This is your time. You can succeed and fail, and no one's going to hold it against you. So just keep in mind, this is your time. Do this for you.
Thank you very much, Professor. Very well said. And Alex, you get to have the last word now. So what advice do you have for students at Purdue?
As Professor Garcia mentioned way back when he started talking about the Capstone projects, networking is essential. I cannot stress this enough. college is a area where you learn like the critical skills and all the knowledge you need to be useful in the world. But if you cannot communicate and develop those soft skills with others, I mean, you're going to have a hard time obtaining a job or at least keeping one and working well with others. I know initially when I got here, I kind of looked at networking as politics in a way. I didn't like using people just to get ahead, but I had I don't know, how can I say this? A different outlook on it when a friend told me that think about it as speaking with passion, like for the passion that you have in certain industries or certain aspects, and then communicating with that person. You never know where they could take you. You never know the opportunities that you could discover. So definitely place emphasis on building those soft skills and networking with others.
Thank you very much, Alex. And thank you to everyone out there who's watching. This concludes our discussion tonight. We hope you learned something new about the School of Engineering Technology at Purdue University. And we hope you'll join us for one of our upcoming events for admitted students. So we have Purdue's For Me, which is an opportunity for you to come visit campus and take a tour with your family. And there may be also other online information sessions and student-to-student chats. So you can find all of that information and all of those opportunities on our admitted students webpage. And also, you can feel free and check out the Polytechnic Ambassadors webpage if you wanted to chat with a student one-on-one. So I would recommend that as well. Thanks again to all of our panelists for joining us and for sharing your wisdom and experience. And if you joined us late, you can go ahead and watch the replay because we talked about a whole bunch of different topics during the last hour. Thanks as well to both John, our technical director, for all the behind-the-scenes work, and of course to Diane Razel, who helped answer questions in the chat room. As I mentioned before, you can feel free to send emails to techrecruit@purdue.edu if you have any additional questions for us about engineering technology or Purdue as a whole. And just a quick reminder, the deadline to accept your offer of admission is May 15th. Thanks again for being here tonight and have a great evening. Boiler up!
Boiler up. Thank you.